Lesson 8, New Work. A little background on this method of teaching algebra. This is referred to as hands-on equations, and this can be used with very young children because especially if they're very precocious with math. That means they have a really good math sense. They're able to abstract at a younger age than most kids. Because this had that intent, when the creators came to thinking about negative numbers, they were trying to come up with a way that negative numbers maybe wouldn't sound so scary. So they decided that they would take that little symbol, the negative symbol, and put it in the middle of the X, since the kids were already familiar with the X, and they would just call it by a different name. So they call it star, because it kind of looks like a star. But you guys are old enough to know about integers, and that there are positive numbers and there are negative numbers. What you need to know is in algebra, when you have an x value, we'll say x equals 3, in one problem, you can also have an x value in another problem. So let's say this is problem number 1. Then you have problem number 2. Down on problem number 3, you can have x equal a negative 4. The value of x can be a negative. It can be a negative. It is not always a positive. So when you start dealing with stars or this representation, what you really should be thinking about is this is the opposite of x. That whatever x is, this or this is simply going to be its opposite. So back up here in this problem, for if we had an imaginary problem and we found the answer and x was equal to 3, star then would equal the opposite of 3, which would be negative 3. But you guys know that star is really, for 7th graders, written this way, and this is the opposite of whatever this quantity is. So that would be negative 3. When you have a negative sign in front of a variable, in front of a letter, it should always be thought of as the opposite of whatever that variable is, not negative, because x can sometimes be negative. And so the opposite of x is going to be 4. Until you know what one or the other is, you're not going to know which one is negative. Sometimes your x value is negative, and that makes the opposite of x positive. Or on these worksheets, they're going to show them as star. If x is positive, star is negative, or the opposite of x is negative. If x is negative, the opposite of x is going to be positive. So for lesson 8, the only thing that's new is what is written in picture form and in equation form. Solving is exactly the same as you did when you just had x's. You're still going to pull down on both sides. You're still going to see what's left. These numbers are still positive numbers. Okay, we don't have any negative signs in front of our numbers. We simply have positive values. So we'll go through and do these together just so you get used to it. The only thing that's new here is how it's written as a picture and how it's written in an equation, and the fact that it looks a little funky now. Instead of an X, it's a star. But you know, because I just told you, that that is the same as the opposite of X. So this is lesson 8, and we're going to do the first 4 problems together, just so you understand. It's just the same, we're just using a little different representation. So for me, for these, I'm going to use my chips that are a little bit lighter. So the butterscotch chips. So I've got 3 chips plus a 2 block equals 2 chips plus an 8. So here's my 3 chips and a 2 block plus 2 chips and an 8. Now, if I was using these for my x's earlier, and I think I did in 1 or 2 problems just to show you that you can use anything that you have, I wouldn't be using them now for my stars. So whatever you were using for your x's, you want to use something different now for your stars. If you have regular chocolate chips for your x's and you have butterscotch ones for your stars, that's great, but not all of us have that in our home. So we're going to solve this the exact same way we did previously. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time because by now this should be old hat to you. We have numbers and x's on both sides. Start on the side with the fewest number of x's, pull all of them down, pull all of them down. Something plus 2 equals 8. So that means that x equals 6. Do my check, or excuse me, star. Now, I think as 7th graders, we should maybe put negative x there. Excuse me, the opposite of x. I shouldn't even say negative x. Probably your parents say negative x. Probably most people in the world say negative x. But just to get you to understand, this is the opposite of x. So we now know that x is equal to negative 6, if we know that the opposite of x is 6. Okay, so these are all 6's. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 is 20. And over here, 6 times 2 is 12, plus 8 is 20. So the opposite of x is 6, and my check is 20 equals 20. All right, next problem. Clear your boards. I've got 3 opposite of x's minus an opposite of x equals the opposite of x plus 9. So I'm going to take 3 of my chips and I'm going to take 1 away. So that's going to leave me with 2. And on the other side I have 1 and a 9 block. So start on the side that has the least number, pull them down. This is equal to 9. So the opposite of x is equal to 9. Move that back up. 9 plus 9 is 18. 9 plus 9 is 18. What will hang you up on this lesson is you think that your answer has to be negative. It does not. We have not changed to red blocks yet. We haven't changed to negative numbers. These are still positive numbers. So whatever this is equal to, as long as this block is green, your answer for your check is positive. Your answer on this lesson is also going to be positive because we're only using green blocks. If in your notebook you want to use the little star symbol, for a while you can. But as 7th graders and 8th graders, you need to start transitioning that thinking to that this is the opposite of X. Okay, next one. 5 block, 2 opposite of X's, another opposite of X, 3 opposite of X's, take away an opposite of X, plus an 8. So 5 block, 2 and 1 is 3, and then I have 3, and I have to subtract 1, and then I have to put an 8 in there. Okay, so same thing, start on the side with the least number, right there, pull 2 down, pull 2 down. So we solve the problem just like we did before. That's the purpose of lesson number 8, just to get you used to see how it looks on paper and that we solve them the exact same way. So 5 plus 3 equals 8. So, excuse me, yes, 5 plus 3 equals 8, so my value is 3. If you want to call it star right now, you can, but again, we want to be transitioning. And you can maybe see now why we use a different name for little kids. We just call it star. So these were all 3, so 3, 6, 9 plus 5 is 14, and 3, 6 plus 8 is 14. So check is 14 equals 14. Okay, one last one. Here we're going to use our distributive property again, and we're going to notice this time instead of putting the unknown values, the variables first, and the number block second, they switched it around, and that's totally okay to do because addition is commutative, so the order inside the parentheses here does not matter as long as they're all addition. So we're going to do 2 times 5, which is 10, and 2 times 4 stars, or 4 opposite of X's, which is going to be 4 of them. So I need 4 and 10. And then on the other side I need 18, the number 18, and I need 3 opposite of X's. Ten, a 5, and a 3 will give me 18. Okay. 3 chips down, 3 chips down, 10 block down, 10 block down. I'm left with 1 chip equals 8. And to do my check, I move these back up. Got a lot on that side. So if these are all 8, 8 times 4 is 32 plus 10 is 42. And over here, here's an 8, here's an 8, here's an 8, here's an 8. So 8 times 4 is 32 plus 10 is 42. Okay, so you can either call them stars right now if you're not ready to think of them as the opposite of x, or you can think of them as the opposite of x. Whatever you're ready for. That's the end of Lesson 8. The work at the bottom of the page is simply review work for you.